So, says here you're involved in the plotting of September 11th?
Well, that's what they get for supporting Israel. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Gosh.
Okay, into the eternal pit of fire you go.
For almost 10 years, I made sure I was there on the opening night of every MCU movie that came out. That's right, I was, well, you might consider a Marvel stand. And I was completely unashamed of that because the movies were great. They had very interesting characters, amazing storylines, cool special effects, and a fairly balanced sense of humor. Of course, right around the time of everyone's favorite Marvel movie, Captain Marvel, and then shortly after Endgame, I began to fall off the Marvel bandwagon, and I started to become disinterested in pretty much everything that they were doing. I was super excited for WandaVision, and then about halfway through the show, I realized that it was spiraling downhill, and it was slowly turning into crap. And as the conveyor belt at Marvel Studios began to push out generic and bland TV show after TV show, following that, I checked out pretty quickly and became what I would say disillusioned with the entire MCU as a whole. Of course, I wasn't the only one, and at that time I didn't have a YouTube channel, but people who did have YouTube channels as well as those on the other social media platforms began to voice out their frustration and criticism, pointing out the same things that I point out now in my videos, things regarding character development, or their motivations, things regarding the overall plots, or how things just don't seem to line up with past events. However, most were met with starch criticism from the people creating this content, and article after article came out and basically called them all racist for not liking diverse characters, or sexist for not liking strong independent female characters, so on and so forth. Suffice it to say, none of them were really taken seriously, and they were all grouped into the category along with myself. This didn't just happen with the MCU, in fact, it happened with another major franchise even before that, and that would be Star Wars. Fans were criticizing it for all of its many flaws, and they were met with the same type of pushback. Essentially, you weren't allowed to criticize these properties because if you did, you were considered the problem. You were considered toxic, and you were expected to simply just shut up. Overall, Disney, as well as all the mainstream media outlets that back them up, believes in diversity in pretty much everything except for thought. And since you had a different opinion from the mainstream, and you had issues with what was going on, you didn't get to say so, and you were demonized for those opinions instead. Of course, we all know that time has went on, things have gotten worse and worse, not just Star Wars but the MCU as well, and it doesn't look very hopeful for either one of these major franchises going forward. But the winds of change have started, the seasons are turning, and it seems that it's becoming more and more mainstream to actually acknowledge that there's becoming a problem. Just recently, Variety, a mainstream website that brands itself as the premier source in news, has stated that Marvel is full of issues, and the viewership of each and every TV show, as well as the movies, have been going downhill. For a large platform like this to be openly criticizing the golden goose of Disney is definitely out of the norm from what we've seen in the past. And it's not just the MCU. When it comes to Star Wars, many big YouTubers are starting to change the way that they talk about the shows coming out on Disney+. For example, a popular YouTuber named Star Wars Theory, probably the most popular YouTuber when it comes to Star Wars, just recently went on a long, giant rant about how everything when it comes to Star Wars is becoming crap.
Obi-Wan Kenobi, as well as Luke Skywalker and Leia. Literally the main characters of Star Wars, the most important part, time, everything. And what kind of a budget does it get? It gets not even less than Andor, which I think had like 130 million or 110 million or maybe even more than that. What was the budget for Andor? Hold on here. You guys are going to see such a more real side of me as we push into 2024 because I'm fed up. I'm really tired. I'm really fed up. People that don't like me already don't like me. People that love me already love me. And I'm here for you guys, and I'm not here for anyone else. Obi-Wan Kenobi, the most important Star Wars project since Disney purchased Lucasfilm from George Lucas in 2012. And it gets the lowest budget of any Star Wars show to date. She-Hulk gets a better budget than Obi-Wan? Freaking She-Hulk. I mean, what the hell, man? Like, who is making these decisions up there? I'm sorry to make this kind of video, dude, but honestly, like, who is making those decisions up there? You wonder why Star Wars is in such a state where no one is interested anymore. Nobody gives a crap. It's because of shit like this. And you know what? The budget wasn't even the biggest problem of the show. You have fan films. You have fan fictions that have like no budget, that have like the budget of an internet connection and a computer, that honestly garner more attention and love than the garbage writing and directing that flew into the Kenobi show. You have the most important characters in Star Wars. Not only that, you're bringing back Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor. Forget Jimmy Smits, everybody else. You're bringing back the GOATs, okay? The original... Well, the prequel trilogy. That was the original. Yeah. The OGs, man. The OGs from the prequels, okay? And you not only, give a crap script, you get people that don't know what the hell they're doing when it comes to writing the stories and the characters that George built and created. What the hell are these people thinking? And you're wondering why South Park is making these kinds of comments towards Kathleen Kennedy. It's because people there clearly aren't using their brains. And it seems like I'm taking crazy pills. I'm starting to feel like I'm Mugatu. It's like, does nobody see this?
And from everything I've watched from the guy, he actually seems like one of the biggest supporters and generally likes most of the stuff they put out. So to see him go off and basically call out what many other YouTubers have been calling out this whole time, it's pretty shocking. Of course, I think all of this comes as a major reaction in part to the most recent South Park episode that came out, called Joining the Panderverse, which basically is an entire hour-long episode mocking Disney about how every single product they put out is nothing more than propaganda to pander to diverse characters and ultimately making every single storyline pretty lame. And I suppose when South Park, which is one of the largest and well-known studios, puts out something like that, then now it's okay for everyone who is also involved in larger types of studios and or bigger YouTube channels to openly criticize the content that's coming out of both Star Wars and Marvel. It's almost like they're all NPCs in a video game, and for the longest time, they were just running off of the same type of script that they were all given to download and repeat to be socially acceptable and correct. But now they've been given an update, and all of a sudden, it's okay to criticize these franchises, and it actually doesn't mean you're a horrible person for doing so. Huh. Funny how that works out, isn't it? Either way, we've all seen the writing on the walls. Both Marvel, Star Wars, as well as all the other Disney properties, like, for example, the horrible remake of the original cartoon versions of their animated series, have been going downhill, and downhill pretty fast. It's not just YouTubers who see that, it's the mainstream normie audience as well. The average person may not be able to put their thumb on exactly why they're becoming less and less interested in all of this content coming out, but they know something's off. And people generally just vote with their feet, and that's why these movies and TV shows have been getting less and less viewers, and Disney's stock is slowly plummeting more and more. Big question on everyone's mind is there ever going to be a point or any hope for Disney to course correct? Are they going to actually change their ways and turn things around? I mean, after all, now that South Park and other major outlets, as well as a plethora of YouTube channels, have been criticizing all of this stuff, are they going to actually turn things around and start putting out entertaining content filled with interesting characters and be faithful to the original source material, as well as legacy characters? In other words, are they going to actually be able to start putting out anything as far as entertainment that isn't complete shit? Ultimately, in my opinion, I think the answer is going to be a big fat no. At least not any time in the near future. You see, everything begins and ends with leadership. And even if you get a good, competent leader inside of Lucasfilm or Marvel Studios who actually loves the source material, loves the content they're putting out, and wants to put out something good that they can be proud of, and not just a soulless cash grab, it still wouldn't be enough. It would be great and all, but even then they would still have higher-ups above them who don't care about said product, who don't care about these characters and these stories, and it's just nothing more than a business to them. People who do love superheroes or Star Wars and are creators in the business tend to be choked out by those above them and aren't really given the creative freedom that they used to be given, and so they're not able to actually put out the type of dream and vision that they want to when it comes to the film or TV show that we're watching. I suppose there's exception to this rule with some big name filmmakers like James Cameron or Christopher Nolan, who are given a lot more wiggle room to actually put out the film they want and tell the story that they had in mind. But most of the people working at Disney aren't really allowed to do that. And even if they were, it probably would be even worse, seeing as how most writers and producers are absolute talentless hacks that spend most of their days with their own heads buried so deep within their own asses that they can't tell the difference between actual entertainment and their own shit. And so, before things have any hope of getting any better, I think they're probably going to have to get worse. Don't get me wrong, there is still potential to turn these things around. Probably more so for the MCU than for Star Wars though. I mean, with the MCU, you can do all kinds of things. You can have something similar to, say, a Flashpoint, or another great threat that switches up the multiverse, even though that's been used and reused over and over and over. Still, with competent writers, you can make it work and ultimately reset everything if you really had to. And in spite of the past 5 or 6 years of absolute crap content that the MCU has been spewing out, it is built upon a solid decade of really good movies. Star Wars, on the other hand, just doesn't have that much. I mean, the original 3 films are the most amazing thing that has ever happened in cinema, but other than that, there's the prequels, which are kind of a hit and miss when it comes to certain people. And then there's all the sludge that has come out of Disney for the past decade or so, involving all the new characters like Rey, Finn, and Poe. Not to mention the fact that all the original legacy characters that people grew up with and loved with all their hearts have been completely mutilated and discarded in place of these new characters. So in order for Star Wars to turn things around, they would have to get very good writers, move things forward in the universe instead of telling a prequel story, stop constantly key-jangling old legacy characters in our face as a distraction to obvious plot holes, and actually put someone in charge of storytelling who, you know, loves the story, which is a pretty big ask, and so there's not really a lot of hope for that, unfortunately. But I suppose if enough time passed, it could happen. But like I said, I don't think any of these changes are going to happen anytime soon. However, the fact that you have larger YouTubers, as well as more mainstream outlets, especially South Park of all people, calling out some of the BS at Disney and making fun of their poor choices, I think ultimately it's at least a step in the right direction. And of course, it kind of vindicates those YouTubers who were originally calling out all of this crap in the first place. But what do you think? Do you think Disney or the MCU is coming close to a turning point? Or do you think that's still a long ways off? Do you think they're ever going to turn things around at all? Or is it eventually just going to end up dying until a new fad comes along and then people chase after that? Tell me your thoughts in the comments, and if you did like this video, then please like, share, and subscribe. It really does go a long way in helping out the channel and my content. And of course guys, as always, thanks so much for watching, and have a great freaking day.